Hi everyone, my name is Keely and I'm the owner and creator here at Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for another soap making video. Now, I've wanted to do a confetti soap for so long now. I've been cleaning up my soaps, keeping all those little bits of scraps that you get from when you actually clean them off, and I've been keeping in a bag ready to do a confetti soap. But I didn't want to do the normal rainbow or birthday cake style soap. I wanted to do something a little bit different. Now, I've been having a bit of a tidy up in the workshop, and it suddenly came to my mind what I wanted to do with these confetti pieces. So let's go and see how I make my spring flowers confetti soap. So we're going to keep the base of this soap very simple, and because of that I am just going to add my colour straight into my oils here. I have got some Melon Fizzer from My Micro Obsession, and I've got a fair bit of oil in there, so we're going to put a little bit more of that mica in. I'm going to mix the mica into here, and then I am going to pour my lye water solution into my bucket, give it a mix up, and then we'll put in our soap scraps. Before we add in our soap scraps, the first thing I am actually going to do is pop in my fragrance oil. If you watched my haul on my fragrance shed video, I got in this one called Champagne, and I thought it was going to be like the Brambleberry Champagne, which is really nice to work with. But it had more of a Parma Violet sort of smell to it, and really didn't remind me of champagne at all. But it does have those sort of floral notes, so I decided I was going to use that one in here. I have no idea whose actual fragrance oil that champagne was. All I know is it came from out of the fragrance shed, and she's an on-seller for a lot of the US fragrance oil suppliers. Now, I didn't have quite enough to make up this big slab mold batch of that champagne fragrance oil, so I mixed in a little bit of the Brambleberries champagne just to give it a little bit more sort of bubble and fizz to it, and it smells so good. I also added just a touch of lavender as well, just to give that real floral sort of appeal to it. So we'll get all that mixed in, and before I actually do add my scraps in, I also need to pour off just a little bit because I want to reserve some of this to do some leaves on the top. So let's see if we can pour this off without making too much mess. Just find that little bit there. And that should do. Didn't make too much mess, that wasn't bad. Alright, so that is looking really good. It is now time to add the scraps in. So here's my bowl of scraps here. I'm going to start by adding in just a few handfuls, see how we go as we're pouring, and see if I need to add any more as we go along. So let's get the rest of that bowl out and stir all of that in. Now, the idea behind actually putting the scraps into here was to kind of make it look like a field of flowers, just all those little specks of colour when you walk through a really nice wild field of flowers. That must be a piece of black soap. I don't like the look of that. It looks like a bug, but no, it's definitely a piece of black soap. But like I said, I don't like the colour of that bit, so that's coming out. Alright, I think I could actually put a little bit more in there. I was a little bit cautious about how much I was going to put in. So I'm going to throw some more in here. When I did actually calculate my oils, I did take into account how much of the soap scrap I was going to put in, but I have actually put in more than what I intended to. So I'll probably end up with some little extra sample ones to give away to people, but that is looking much better. I think I'm going to get that sort of look that I'm after, of lots of little bits of flower in the field as you walk through. That looks like a piece of lemongrass. It is. That's from off my lemongrass and Persian lime soap. I'm going to take that piece out, and let's get this started to pour into my slab mold. Okay, so here is the slab mold here, and we're just going to very simply start pouring this into the mold like so. And as I said, I am going to have lots of leftover because I have added in extra soap scraps, or maybe not. Actually, we're not. We're going to have a perfect amount. So I must have done a miscalculation on how much my actual soap mold holds. So I'm going to get my bucket scraped out. I'm going to let this set up a little bit, and then we'll come back and we will do the top. Okay, so this is now all nicely set up and it's ready to put the top on here. And what I am using are all of these piped flowers. Let me just grab this other tray. We've got some roses as well. So whenever I've done my flowers for my soaps, I always end up with extras. And I kept putting them into a container with the intention of using them on other things. And just as time goes by, I've never actually used them. So I was doing a spring clean the other day and I thought, right, let's use them. Let's make this floral soap. So all I'm going to do is decorate this top randomly, just placing the flowers on the top. Then I'll fill it in with some leaves and we should hopefully have a really nice field of flower sort of effect on the top. So these little roses, I actually piped those when I did the spring moon soap. I've got some poppies from my Pretty Little Poppies soap that I did. We've got some sunflowers from way back when I did that sunflower soap. What else have we got in this container? I have got some little lavenders from when I did lavender martini. I've got some little violets as well, and that was when I did the raspberry violet soap. So there are all sorts in here. I've even got some white flowers that I did on my fresh raspberry soap. So I am just going to fill in the top randomly with all these flowers. I probably won't get to use all of them, but I'll give it a good go. I piped these for another project that never eventuated, so they've been sitting on the shelf in that container. So I have actually got some other ideas of what I'm going to do with those. I'm just waiting to get a fragrance oil in so I can use them, but we'll pop some of those on the top of here. So I'm just going to start randomly filling it in. Then I will use the leftover green that I had just to pipe in some extra leaves. Now this green that is underneath here, this is going to morph back into a lovely bright coloured green as it sits overnight, so I'm not too worried that that looks a little bit dull at the moment. It will all come good in the end. Let's sit that little lavender upright. So I know a majority of you guys that are watching my videos are up in the Northern Hemisphere and you are going into autumn at the moment, but we are coming into spring. We are well and truly in spring. It is warm. We're getting days that are actually reportedly getting up to about 30, 32 degrees. Where we are, which is close to the coast, we get it a little bit cooler because we've got all those really nice cool breezes coming in off the ocean. So we're getting about 29 degrees during the day, which is absolutely lovely. It's just so nice not to be cold. I have been so looking forward to this weather. But, you know, generally when spring comes along, most people do a spring clean. Now, I'm not one for spring cleaning. I try and clean all year round when I can. I just don't see the point in cleaning for one season of the year and letting it all build up. We pretty much have to clean on a regular basis where we are because where we are, so as you know, I'm in Australia, as I've just said at the start. We are in a state called Queensland, or hubby and I, we live in a state called Queensland. We are about halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. And it's a lovely bushland sort of area that we're in. You often hear all the birds in the background of the videos. And we get to see lots of wildlife too. In the mornings when I go out for my Sunday morning market, I often see kangaroos sitting down the bottom of our street. And in these last couple of weeks, I was so excited. For the first time ever in all my years living here in Australia, I got to see a wild echidna. In fact, not just one wild echidna, I got to see two. One was in our neighbour's front yard, and then I discovered one in our backyard. And it was just so magical to see because I'd never seen one before and I always wanted to see a wild one. But where we are as well, so not only are we surrounded by all this beautiful wildlife, lots of, you know, native trees and all that sort of thing, we also have, I think there's there's at least 2, and I'm thinking there is possibly 3 working quarries. So they do a lot of digging around, quarrying up the dirt, which they use for things like road base, for other building work and things like that. They're not mining for any, you know, precious minerals or anything like that. It is just literally, there's a lot of shale where we live. They used to actually have volcanoes around here as well, so lots of shale, lots of things that they can use in construction work. But having those 3 big quarries, when we moved here, we actually didn't quite grasp what it meant to be living around all these quarries. It means there is continual dust, just every day. Like, I go into the kitchen to do dinner, and the first thing we have to do before I can do any food prep is to actually wipe down all of the benches. And they literally go from this dusty black colour, because we've got stone black benches, they go from this dusty browny black colour to this brilliant black just after we've wiped them down. So we get so much dust every day through the house. So if I was to do spring clean, you know, once every year at springtime, the house would just be absolutely filthy. Yes, it's annoying to have all these quarries by us kicking up all this dust, but believe me, it certainly is worth it for all the beautiful things that we actually do get to see around here and all the wildlife that we see as well. So having those couple of quarries around here really isn't that bad a thing. It's just a matter of keeping on top of that dust. But I did decide this year, because, you know, based on that we've always got that dust, I'm constantly spring cleaning, trying to keep all the window tracks clean so that the doors and windows slide open easily, and that the air conditioner doesn't get constantly blocked with dust and things like that. So we're always doing it, but I did decide that this year I was going to do a mini spring clean. And basically I was going through some of the cupboards where, when we first moved in, we just dumped a whole heap of stuff in there. I thought, right, we're going through there, we're cleaning these cupboards out, we're getting rid of anything. If we have to ask what's in a box, well, the box has to go, basically. So we did do a little mini spring clean in the house, and I figured while I was still in the mood for spring cleaning, I would come out to the shed and I would do a little spring clean within the workshop as well. And that just meant having a look at some of the tools and equipment that I've got lying around that either I just don't use because, well, I bought them at the time because they were on sale or it was a good bargain or whatever, and I'm going to start getting rid of stuff. Now, as I was cleaning up the shelves, I picked up these containers of flowers, and I thought, well, now is the time to actually start using them. Do a bit of a spring clean of all of the embeds sitting on the bench. So that is what I decided to do. So I'm going to finish filling up these little gaps, and then I will come back and I'm going to fill in the rest of the gaps with that green piping, and we'll put some leaves in here too. I've made a fairly good dent in there, so I'm pretty happy with the number of flowers that I have used. I have actually got another idea to use for those, so I'm not too disappointed that we've only made a small dent in there, so they'll go off for another project. But that's looking pretty good. We've pretty much almost got to the bottom of there. I can always keep these little lavenders and things for other lavender soaps later. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go and get my piping and then pop the leaves in. So I have got a Wilton leaf tip in my biodegradable bag here. It is a tip 67 or 67. And all I'm going to do is just pop in some leaves randomly to fill in the top of this one. And this, again, this colour will actually brighten up as it sits and saponifies overnight. So even though it's looking a little bit dull at the moment, it will brighten up. Right, so I'm going to use the wet soap here to help really anchor these dry flowers or these cured flowers into my soap. Now, some of these I actually did leave sitting on the curing rack for a number of weeks until they were actually cured, or I actually remembered to put them away into some containers. Others I have left sitting on the curing rack for maybe a week, and then pop them into the containers so that they're actually dry, but they are still soft enough to be cut with the cutter. I did actually test some of these older flowers first and pop through the cutter just to make sure that they were going to cut well, and I believe they will do. So I'm curious, how many people actually do spring clean, and have you got any tips for me to carry on with cleaning up in our house? Because even though I do try and keep on top of it, it does get a little bit out of control occasionally. And yep, some of our window tracks really need cleaning out at the moment, because not only have we got the quarries around us, we have got a lot of building work. There's some new estates going in. We just had a great big shopping complex. It was actually finished at the start of the year, but they did all this sort of digging and all the dust that came up from that. We've also just had a massive dust storm come through as well. The weather at the moment, it is heartbreaking to watch the news. There are some of the worst fires that Queensland has had in quite a number of years happening. They're about a 2-hour drive down the road from where we are, so it's far enough away that it's not impacting us, but close enough that it's kind of, this could actually be happening in our little bit of bushland as well. It is absolutely heartbreaking to see, and the smoke and the dust that comes off those fires. I mean, I can't really complain. I still have a house. I still have everything that we own over our heads, but the dust that does come off these fires is absolutely phenomenal. And then not only were we having the smoke coming in from off all of these fires, they're actually to the south of us, and then some young kids started some up north from us, again about another 2.5 hour drive away from us. But not only was all that coming in, a big dust storm kicked up out west, and that came in and out across the coast. So this one day, a couple of weeks ago, you really couldn't see that far ahead. Visibility was so poor, and it was this really red, dusty looking sky, and you could just tell it was all of the dust coming from the outback in. My printer's decided it's going to start calibrating. It always calibrates at the most awkward of moments, so let's get that in. But as I said, I am extremely grateful that we still have our home. So that little bit of dust that has been kicked up from things like dust storms and these fires is nothing compared to what some of these people are going through at the moment. They don't even have a house to go back to dust. It is just, it's so sad. They still haven't said what caused the fires that are down south from us. They know that a majority of the ones that happened up north have been lit by young children, which just, I'm not even going to get into that on camera. But these ones that are down south, it sounds like these are actually natural fires that have occurred. So there was just very little. The sad thing is these people down there have got, they've had really, really heavy water restrictions. The one town was actually bringing water in. They were having to pay to get water shipped in for their people to drink. I mean, that is just how dire it is. And then can you imagine them trying to fight a fire when there's not even any water to drink for these people? It's just horrendous. And that's why I do sometimes use things which, like my piping bags, they are a biodegradable plastic, but I choose to use them because of how heavily restricted we can be on water. Here in where we are, I think it's it must have been a good 4-5 months since we've had rain. Like, we've had some days where it has desperately tried, and we might end up with like half a dozen spits of rain on the ground, but that's been about it, and then it just disappears as quick as it came. We just have not had rain. Our water tank that we've got on the property, which does all of our amenities, so our washing, our toilets and that sort of thing, that has been empty for probably 3, close to 4 months. That is just how dry it is here at the moment. It is, yeah, very, very, very sad. It's a beautiful, beautiful country we live in, but oh gosh, it can be harsh. But if anyone does have any spring cleaning tips on how I can actually, you know, try and stop some of the dust buildup that we've got at the moment, I'm very willing to hear. But while doing all that little bit of chit chat there, I have now filled in pretty much every inch of this soap that I possibly can with leaves. I've just got a couple more spots in here. And then I think we might put just a little bit more sprinkle on the top of this one. So now that that is completely full of leaves and flowers, I am going to give that one a bit of a spritz with some rubbing alcohol just to protect that fresh soap that I've put on there. And the next thing I'm going to add is some biodegradable glitter. So just going to give that a bit of a shake, and that will stick to that fresh soap that's on there and look really sparkly and glittery. Some of these already actually do have bits of mica sparkle on them, so they are already quite pretty there. But that is just going to really finish this one off. And then I'm going to bring you down for a closer look. So here is spring flowers up close. I am so pleased with how this has all come together. I was really wary about putting so many different flowers on the top, but with those leaves, they have really come together well. I am so looking forward to getting this one cut open tomorrow and see if putting all of those soap shreds inside really does make it look like one of those painted fields of flowers that you see. So I have got this out of the mold and we are ready to start cutting it. I am loving the sparkle on top of here, and the smell is so nice. Adding that little bit of brambleberry champagne into that champagne one I had has given it this real bubbly, sparkly sort of smell, and the violet smell that was in that other champagne fragrance oil is really coming through as well. Now I know I'm going to damage a little bit at the edge of the soap where my leaves have poked over the edge, but I'm just going to run this through my splitter. I'm going to go nice and slow because the flowers on the top are actually quite hard because they've had time to cure, and I don't want to break my wire, so I'm just going to go nice and slow. And I'm almost through, and then we'll be able to see if we're starting to get that look of wildflowers in a field. Oh! I just had a piece of soap flick back at me then. But that's pretty good the way that's gone. So let's have a look at what we've got inside. And that is the start of what we've got. Let me pick that up and bring it closer to the camera for you. That is the cut edge, and that really does look like a field of wildflowers. I'm so happy it has cut through nice and cleanly as well. So I'm going to get the rest of this one split up, and then we will cut it up for some bars of soap. Alright, so I'm going to start by trying to cut it with my multi-bar, and then if it is just too hard, I am going to revert back to the single bar cutter. I'm going to start with this middle log first, and I'm going to lay it on its side just so I'm not putting too much pressure on my wires as I cut this one open. And it looks like we are going to get a perfect number of soaps out of this one. Alright, so nice and slow through here. I've made sure that all my wires are at just the right tension, and hopefully we won't damage too many of those flowers as we go through. I can feel we've got a bit of resistance. I was once asked about putting the cured flowers on top of soaps, and I said that usually I pipe my flowers and then I put them on within sort of 24 to 48 hours of actually making the flowers. But it is possible to use your cured flowers. You just have to go very slowly, very gently. Alright, so let's take a look inside. Let's grab these couple from the middle. They are all going to be pretty much the same on the inside. with that confetti in there. I am so pleased that I decided to do my confetti soap this way. Really does look like that field with lots of little wildflowers growing. Perfect for springtime, and a really good way to use up all these bits of flowers I have had sitting around the workshop for quite some time. The fragrance is just so nice. As I've split this one open, it's quite fresh and clean, so that is again perfect for spring. I think that is a piece of lemongrass in there. In fact, yes it is. That must be from when I did my lemongrass and Persian lime soap. Seeing all these different colours and kind of distinguishing which soaps they have come from. I've got a couple of rainbow pieces in there, which was when I did my column mould pour, and I will be doing another column mold soon. I'm just waiting on something to come through from Amazon Australia. I placed the order for it on the weekend, so hopefully it should be here sometime very soon, and then I'll be doing another column pour, and then I'll show you what it is that I'm waiting for. So I hope you have enjoyed how I have done my spring flowers soap, and I hope that's given you another idea of how you could use your soap scraps in a soap. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. If you've got any questions, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And until the next video, I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you then. Bye.